Travis Wayne Goodsell. CBS last night was the first one that I saw reporting that U.S. intelligence has informed that Putin has given the order to invade. And after finishing the video, I found Fox has joined the list. And then did some checking, and sure enough, lots of people are now reporting about the U.S. intelligence saying that Putin has given the order to invade. And so war is imminent as the troops are moving in now. So, what does that mean for Mormons? There are Utahns who are Ukrainian and are wishing the best for Ukraine. I saw that on Saturday's news. They were at the Capitol here in Utah, standing in solidarity with Ukraine. So let me again remind you, as events begin and then take years, are allowed to continue for years, there is a tendency for people to forget the origin of how everything got started. And by forgetting who the cause is, got ourselves a little bit of snow this morning. People end up doing dumb things by forgetting who the cause is. They tend to blame other things or people after the fact of the cause. And there's one we're currently in, for example, that we're going on year 3, for example, and everybody's forgotten the cause. Not just with our government, but with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so, apparently I'm the only one who remembers the cause, and I get punished, as YouTube is in on the conspiracy to silence the information about the cause, rather than allowing a platform for the truth. But nonetheless, Ezekiel chapter 38. Bruce R. McConkie is the one who put in the chapter headings. Bruce R. McConkie writes for Ezekiel 38, "The battle of Gog and Magog against Israel shall usher in the second coming. The Lord will come amid war." And despite my video after video trying to teach Mormons and ex-Mormons that Mormons are not Christian, that the Christ of Mormons is a human, not Jesus, nonetheless, nobody believes. And so your understanding, therefore, is that this is Ukraine and Russia, not the great and abominable church with the false Christ, and that Jesus is coming in the middle of this war that has now begun, even though it's already begun, but nobody wants to. Pisses me off. So much suffering before people finally admit that, oh yeah, we are under attack, I guess we're at war. I guess we should start defending Ukraine? But this is how Mormons see it. They're Christian, and so Gog and Magog is Ukraine and Russia, and Jesus is coming in the midst of this war. Well, like I said, nobody believes me. There is no Jesus. He doesn't exist. He's not coming. He's not going to save the day. Do you understand the consequences of that false belief of Christianity? You've been sitting on your duff waiting for Jesus to do all the work for you. And so, Nelson, they've had relations with Putin prior to, going way back. Putin is no stranger to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so when Nelson gets up at his solemn assembly and announces a temple yet to be determined in a major city in Russia, we now know he meant, yeah, we're going to cause Armageddon of Gog and Magog. We've paid for it. That's what it meant. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is seeking to overthrow the world governments. And it's that very thing that I discovered, that the church had had enough and destroyed me. I am destroyed and ruined. And so I'm wondering how long I'm going to suffer these hardships. But apparently I'm being allowed some time. But the hardships are increasing over the days. And so I've been trying to warn you and protect you and save you and inform you of the correct knowledge, correcting the church that they're lying and deceiving you about. And so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, knowing that they paid for this, and my coming out and exposing it when I did, yeah, they knew exactly what they were doing when they were the first to pull missionaries from Ukraine and close the temple. They knew what this was about. They didn't do it in China and in Hong Kong and Taiwan and now Australia. They're not doing it in the UAE. They're not doing it elsewhere where there's destructions and wars. Just Ukraine. Because they know. They paid for it. They know what's going on. They know what's going to happen. I just told you. Bruce R. McConkie knew. Bruce R. McConkie was an apostle. They all know. They're all in on it. And so, sure enough, our government then follows. And so Putin comes out and everybody's going, oh, is he going to do it? I don't know. I don't know. Cyber terrorism, in America and Ukraine. But I don't know. Is he going to invade? I don't know. People's definition of war has been skewed. When somebody cyber attacks you, they have declared war against you. Putin declared war. He's declared war against us a long time ago. We just keep letting him get away with it because we don't fight back. And he's been at war with other countries where he poisons people in other countries, where he cyber attacks in other countries. This is a declaration of war. China is at war with us also because of their cyber terrorism and their economic extortion. as Bill Mayer again reviewed that with us on Friday night. As the church likewise showed that they are in on it with China as well. Shanghai! See, when you know the truth, you can go back and see the bigger picture. I did it with the video. I hope YouTube left it alone and finished processing it so that you can see it. They were refusing to process it. But how to study your Book of Mormon. I had not done that. I had not looked over the material in advance. I've obviously read over it previously in my life. We all have. But I had the idea, let's do this. And so, first time reviewing after the new material I've been giving you, and sure enough, it added to it and confirmed what I've been telling you. And so yes, we are in the fulfillment of the warning message of the Book of Mormon. And so the Book of Mormon is true. Yes, ex-Mormons, Book of Mormon is true. It goes into great detail informing us of who the identity of the Great and Abominable Church is. It's true. You guys argue and fight saying, no, it's not true, the Book of Mormon's a fraud, Joseph Smith is a fraud, it's all a fraud, fraud. No, it's true. Are you going to deny that the identity of the Great and Abominable Church is a lie in the Book of Mormon? Mormons do. What about you? Are you agreeing with Mormons? Are you wanting to be Mormon again? Oh, please take us back. We'll say the Book of Mormon is not true. True, but not true. So, I've gone over my videos talking about what I experienced in my life, not just the church when they sent me death threats, saying we're sick and tired of you, we're destroying you. But I've talked about how Russians have popped up at certain times in my life here in Utah. And I've talked about how I guess it was FX did the TV show Americans. There were Russian sleeper cells during the Reagan administration. And it's a fictional family placed in the historical context of what was real. There were sleeper cells in America during the Reagan administration. And so this turned it into a TV fictional series with a fictional Russian cell family and how it functioned and worked through the eyes of the author of the series. And so we would be stupid to think that there are no longer Russian spies here in America. I have had communications with them as I expose them, as they try to pretend to be Mormon, and I respond. This was years ago, and they would counter-respond, and it's clear they know nothing of Mormonism. If you're going to pretend to be somebody and be effective, you actually need to know the subject matter, and you get exposed by not knowing the culture of Mormonism. There are certain things that Mormons know, even if they are ex-Mormon, even if they're not very knowledgeable on Mormonism. Mormons know certain things, and so you can identify a fraud who doesn't even know those basics that all Mormons know, regardless of their level of intelligence in Mormonism. And so once I expose them, then they confess, and one guy even said, "I can't wait to go back to my home country." Apparently he was not liking his assignment here in America. But yeah, I saw the one woman at my grocery store who left the line to go right near me so that I can hear her speaking in Russian on the phone. And another couple during a 4-hour bus ride get on and follow me, and then pretended to not follow me back. It was an elderly woman and a younger man that could be the age of her son, but knowing Russians and the assignments they give, that, you know, may or may not be actual family. And then there was another one. Ah, yes, that's right. Amazon delivery guy. Well, and so yes, there are Russians among us. And so I've warned you about what will happen when this war commences, and it's commenced, so we're about to experience what we're about to experience. So I thought it was interesting that yesterday there was a power outage in two main locations in Utah. The one in Salt Lake City, as there was also a fire. A hotel burned down, or was it a brothel? And they're just calling it a hotel because that's faith promoting. But they don't say what it was, but it was abandoned apparently, which tells me it was the homeless who purposely do it to keep warm, but they burn it and in the hopes that they can get arrested and go to jail to have a place to stay and get food and etc. But that's a common thing. But it also has involved a legislator with insurance fraud. I think he got away with it, but nonetheless. The other one was down below Sevier, Utah, and there was an earthquake the day before that, right there in that area. So that was kind of weird. But we've known, the news has reported since 2015, that Putin has full access to everything connected to the internet. So our power grid and other plants and facilities that are run by the internet and website. They have hacked them. They've been at war with us for a long time. And they've been fooling around with shutting off lights across America just to test to make sure they can still do it. And so the other week, when my power went out on Monday, and then Salt Lake and the rest of the valley on Friday of that week, as the rumors were now starting about war in Magog, yeah, I'm well aware of that. And the point that I'm trying to hopefully get across to you is that you need to be prepared. because it would be a poor tactic on Putin's part, as even our government is informing us through the news that we should be aware of some kind of attack in America, whether that be an attack on our internet, our computers, internets, or through hacking of certain key facilities and government agencies, as last Friday, or not last Friday, but the Friday before, Russia hacked some U.S. stuff, and then attacked or hacked Ukraine on that weekend, or Monday, last Monday? But we should expect something like that. Not something minor that we've been having all this time. Something big. It has to be damaging. This is a war strategy. You need to think in terms of war strategy now. You can't think that Putin's going to be a good guy, he'll learn his lesson, and he won't go through with it. No, he's going through with it. Church is paid. They want their kingdom of Deseret. They've been planning for this for 200 years. And so what's coming must be damaging to America as a punishment, as Putin would say it, but also to help with the division of America in regards to how we treat the war, or whether we are in the dark about the war, or whatever manner it will take. And I've been warning you about your belief systems, that you can't just believe whatever you want, and the consequences for bad beliefs are bad consequences. That's why it's so important to have correct beliefs. And so, in the Book of Mormon, in Alma, chapter 4, they ended their war against the Lamanites as the Amalekites have turncoated to the enemy. And this is Mormon, as the story says, talking about what they were believing after the war had ended. And in verse 3, after talking about the destruction of everything in their life, so great were their afflictions that every soul had cause to mourn, and they believed that it was the judgments of God sent upon them because of their wickedness and their abominations. Therefore, they were awakened to the wrong sense of what to do next. They began to be strict in adherence. It was all about duty rather than love. And Mormons don't see this when they read this, because in verse 4, they began to establish the church more fully. Many were baptized, joined the church, and so everything seems to be fine. But just 2 verses later, people of the church, being rich, They lost everything, and now all of a sudden they're rich. And with their wealth, they forgot the concept of love. They never had love. To them, prosperity equals righteousness. They believed that the destruction was because of their wickedness, and thus their wealth because of their righteousness. Nope. And so we are given a parable prophecy by Joseph Smith in the Doctrine and Covenants, section 101, starting in verse 43. And I've gone over the atrocity of the manual that you had last year when we went over it in Sunday school. How they tried to pass the buck to Mormons as the servants, rather than Mormons as the olive trees, so that the prophets could be exempt and distanced from accountability in this parable, because the prophets are the servants. It has to do with the redemption of Zion. And so verse 44, a certain nobleman had a spot of land very choice, and he said unto his servants, that's the prophets, that is not Mormons. Mormons are led by prophets. Go ye unto my vineyard, even upon this very choice piece of land, and plant Mormons, 12 olive trees, 12 tribes of Israel, Israelites, Mormons, and set watchmen, and so that's church leaders, at the local level, stake level, 70, and build a tower. When I did the footnotes in 2000 to 2004, everybody knew the tower was the church office building. It was specifically built because of this, that one may overlook the land. Yeah, it's a beautiful view, assuming there's not much pollution. And so the watchmen were those of the 70 and others who worked there in the building. And the purpose for all of this, with the hedge and the tower and watchmen, is so that it will not be broken down when the enemy shall come to spoil and take upon themselves the fruit of my vineyard. And so what happens? Verse 51. And the enemy came by night and broke down the hedge, and the servants of the nobleman arose and were affrighted and fled, and the enemy destroyed their works and broke down the olive trees. This is what's coming. The prophets, with their warped interpretation of Scripture, mixing it with Christian beliefs, think that they are to bring about Jesus where there is no Jesus, and they know it, by making evil happen. And so, in fulfillment of the parables from the Gospels about separating the wheat from the tares, the wheat from the chaff, sheep from the goats, well, the church prophets have been doing that, as I've been warning you. They are purposely causing the separation. And we've done the clips. I've shown the news stories. I've told you that my brother is responsible for losing the Mormons so that the church isn't reporting the membership stats. And what the church prophets are doing are chasing out the righteous. But the righteous don't know that they're righteous, as they are fooled and deceived into thinking they're the wicked ones, as Mormons are incited to attack those who leave the church. And so many ex-Mormons fall away, not understanding that the Book of Mormon is true. And so what the church prophets are doing are fulfilling the prophecy part of evil, separating out the wicked from the righteous who have been cast out. And we know from the parables what will happen, as Joseph Smith likewise repeats it with his parable. Destruction. You just had Sodom and Gomorrah on Sunday, and hopefully you watched my video rather than going to church. But nonetheless, this is how it's being done. We are witnesses to it in real time. The fulfillment of prophecy is occurring in real time. And so it's vital that you don't forget the cause. That the Book of Mormon is true. Because when this happens, I don't want you thinking, oh, I didn't study the Book of Mormon hard enough, I didn't pray long enough, I didn't attend church, you either pay tithing or you don't. They don't want you to pay more than a tenth. But, yeah, go to the temple more, whatever. Or force other people to live your standards of righteousness. Because that's not love. That's not what it's about. And you'll end up making the same mistakes that the Nephites make if you survive. And so, I hope you're prepared, despite the torment and the torture and the suffering the church and our government and our businesses have been causing upon us, as well as other Mormons being incited as well to this great evil. See it there on the verse 52. And so something's coming. Don't know when. I did the video about Ash Wednesday. So, yeah, I can see a slow build-up, and then boom. But I've been right this whole time, guys. A little premature, but that's good for you, because you're given advanced warning. You know, like Lehi. It didn't happen immediately after he warned everybody. It took time. Samuel the Lamanite took time. But the people were warned. It's coming. I've warned you. It's coming. Much of it has already happened. You should have been paying attention to that with my videos. Nobody else is doing this for you. Everybody else stays within the lines of the church and don't go beyond with speculations. except for speculations that the church doesn't care about. Like, did you get your ticket to go? It already happened. Did you go? Were you there? You can't tell us, can you? Because it's a sacred secret. So, yeah, Nelson has been teasing you in conference. He throws out Babylonian Band, these are the latter days. Stay away from social media and the media. What? Lying to you about translation, creating an idol god to distract you, telling you that this idol god will heal you of everything. The idol god will give you peace. They changed the talk. It's no longer about the second coming. On their webpage. Now another white Jesus. But the Book of Mormon is correct, but not the way the church is saying it's correct. So, yeah, I wanted to go to bed, sleep my life away, because once I start losing things, once the hardship gets to a certain point, there's nothing for me to do in my life anymore. I lose the internet, I'll only have my computers, and I'm limited on what I can do on my computers. It can only be with what I have on hand. And if I lose power, for example, then I can't use my computers. And so then I have to figure out something else to do, and so on, until I lose everything in my life. And then there's nothing for me to do. So, the rich do not understand that. They know that they got their wealth from having assets, but they forget that that's why. That they were in a rich family in the first place, where, in my situation, for example, my dad was wealthy, worked for an IBM compatible computer company, and so with the new IBM Osborne computers, I got one, so I was able to do my school reports on the computer, as well as he would get me games on the floppy disks to play, and we would get Pong, the very first computer game. We had that. We didn't have the was it Atari? Was that game Atari? My next door neighbor had the brand new computers game system, and my parents wouldn't get that. They drew the line, but yeah, I had a word processor after taking the typing course in 7th grade at Tuffrey Junior High, and so I had a word processor, and then got the Osborne IBM compatible computer to do stuff, and that was the one that my first wife stole with all of my Paleo-Hebrew research on it, on those floppy disks. So I had to redo the research with the tax refund that year, buying a new computer. So I'm well aware. Going to Rick's, parents paid for it. Going on my mission to New York, New York, parents paid for it. You know, I had jobs in high school, but I spent the money. Cassette tapes and McDonald's and scratch cards, until I had spent about $100 on scratch cards and had estimated that I'd only won about $20 out of the $100 I spent. And so I realized this isn't worth my time, so I stopped it. It was no fun. It's only fun if you win. And so yeah, gambling is stupid. But man, that was pretty much it, because I only needed 1 quarter for the Double Dragon arcade game at the pizza place that I worked as a deliverer. And so yeah, all my books for school at Rick's paid for, and so I purposely chose the classes knowing that they would pay for everything that I needed. And so if I had known that, and if Rick's were a little bit better at setting me up for my future, I would have invested for my future. I'm taking auto mechanics, Dad. I'm going to need a vehicle. I'm going to need, I'm doing interior design. I'm going to need a home to stay in to practice. Because once you lose a home, you got to live out of your car. And then businesses don't want to hire you because they need an address, a physical location. And that's why the homeless have problems. They don't have a physical address, so they can't just get a job. The only jobs that they can get are those that'll pay out of pocket, cash only. And we're at a point where cash pretty much is worthless. Everybody does card now. So, yeah, I'm well aware of the financial crisis we're in, as the rich, who don't think they're rich, don't understand what it's like to actually be poor or to suffer in poverty. And so I know what it's like. It's been done to me several times. And so here it is again, and I know. And so I'm well aware of when things will further harm me and create a hardship greater than it already is at this time. So yeah, I'm hoping you guys will be prepared, because if it's something that you need to run and flee immediately, you will have what you need immediately. For me, it's going to take some time if I'm going to pack things up. If it's a situation where I have to leave everything behind, yeah, well, I know that I'm taking the records of the people, all digitized. That's the essential that I'll be bringing. But I do have other stuff, some food to take on the way and all that, but I don't have transportation. So I'm limited versus those who have a vehicle to flee in. And so we're going to see gas prices skyrocket. And so fleeing by vehicle will be a financial burden. You know, it's essential to flee to save your life, but you're going to need to fill it up with gas eventually. And when you don't have the money to pay for the gas because it's too high of a price, what do you do then? You then have to walk. And so then you have to say, okay, well, what do we leave behind? And the stock market will collapse out of retaliation, as the rich aren't going to suffer. They're already rich. This is money that, you know, they're just making more and more money. So when the stock market crashes, it's because they're selling their stock. They've already made money off the stock market. They're just not making as much money during a a sell-off. And then they'll wait for things to smooth over, and then they'll buy war-friendly stocks, because this will go on for a long time, most likely, and everybody will forget the origin that I've been telling you about, and about how the church was involved, just like everything else that you've forgotten that the church was involved in. Did you know that Nelson called China? He speaks Chinese, for example. So, yeah, the whole nation will suffer because businesses will cause the suffering. So they're not really suffering with the stock market crash, but they'll justify punishing their employees and their customers. So, I mean, America has more than enough to take care of herself with gas and oil, but Biden nonetheless went to Saudi Arabia, who's our enemy, to purchase oil. What are you doing? We're at war with Saudi Arabia. What are you doing? So, there you have it. I just hope you quit fighting with me and actually listen and get yourself prepared.